4.
Heads up. You're listening to Fresh Cut, hosted by renowned golf superintendent and sought-after course consultant Tim Barrier. Every week, Tim and his team pull back the curtain with guests to dissect the details and stories of how the PGA and LPGA prepare courses for tournaments. Don't worry, we won't leave you in the rough or sunk in the drink. So tune in, hit that subscribe button, and relax. And now, here's Tim and Matt Palmquist on the tee box with this week's guest.
And we've got Tim Barrier as well. Not sure if you checked out last week's episode, but if you haven't, go back, subscribe, and thank you for joining us. And this week we have Kevin Keenest, correct?
That's correct.
From Aviara. And thank you so much for joining us.
It's my pleasure.
Yeah.
Great to be here.
I know you're extremely busy and you're one of Tim's great friends. So
long time.
Yeah. So I've been really looking forward to hearing what you have to bring to the table, so to speak. And so I'll let Tim kind of take it away and dive into the fresh cut, right? So
yeah, I'm really honored that Kevin's my first interview. We've been really, really good friends for probably 25 years. We've played a lot of tournament golf together. We've traveled all over the country. We haven't done our overseas Scottish Isles or Irish Islands trip yet to play golf, but I think that's coming. We were talking about doing it a couple years ago, but didn't pan out, and then I think COVID kind of wrecked last year completely. I mean, I know I played a bit of golf, and I know that there are a lot of people out there playing a lot of golf, and I know Aviara has been seeing a ton of golf. But Kevin is a certified golf course superintendent. He's been at Aviara for about 18 years now. Is that how long you've been there?
Close, yeah, almost
18 years. I'm not trying to date him, but it's a long run. Yeah. It's a long time to be at one club. That's for sure. I think Aviara, for me, especially in North County, is the top place to play. If you ask any of the guys that we hang around with, I mean, if they get an opportunity to come out and play golf with Kevin at Aviara, they're really, really excited. But Kevin and I, we've been playing a lot of golf together over the years. We've traveled and gone to a lot of our Golf Course Superintendent Association national championship events, and I think both of us, when we wore a younger man's clothes, we played a little better than we do now. But Kevin's still a pretty good player. Yeah. He's probably a 4 handicap, I think, and
we're hanging on to our games.
We're hanging on to our games a little bit,
barely.
Yeah. We don't hit it as long and straight as we used to, and I think we probably have a little more fear involved than we used to when we were younger guys.
I think Phil Mickelson's win a couple weeks ago kind of gave us some hope. Gave us some hope.
Some revitalization.
Yeah, I think he's pushing 51. And Kevin, you're a couple years older than that, but I think he can take it deep and hit some hellacious seeds, bombs with Phil.
So tell us about who you are and how did you, I mean, you've been at 18 years at Aviara. How did you get into the profession? Like, tell us who you are.
Well, I'll take you back a few years. Again, I kind of stumbled into the industry a little bit. I got a business degree in college, and right after graduating college, my wife and I had the opportunity to travel through Europe for a few months, and we stayed with one of her relatives over in France for a few days, and it turned out they needed someone to house their house in Tucson, Arizona. Mm-hmm. I'm originally from Seattle. And my wife and I are both from Seattle area. And so when we got back from Europe, we thought, well, why not? You know, we just graduated. We didn't really have jobs yet. I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. I had a business degree.
Yeah.
Had some entrepreneurial aspirations to maybe start my own business. And when I got down to Tucson, I was kind of looking around and ended up starting working on a golf course, Tucson National Golf Course. And then just, again, I like the game, and I was playing some golf, and just from working on a golf course, I saw the business side of maintaining a golf course. It really fit, my, my aspirations, and so I from that point on, I said, this is what I'm going to do. It was just it was just the right fit, and I just started to pursue it from there. I started to get in some schooling, and after about a year and a half, was able to find an assistant superintendent's job in San Diego at Palmquist Resort, just up the road from here, and that's kind of where it all started. But kind of stumbled into it. But it's a great business, and it's been a great fit for me.
Couple of those summers you spent in Tucson were probably wanting to chase you out of there, feeling that summer heat.
Yeah, it was. Summers were long there. Summers were long and quite hot. And but it was a great experience, and it was great because it was they hosted a PGA tournament back in those days.
Wow.
And we were talking about Phil earlier. It's kind of funny because I was there when he won his first tournament
in '91.
Was he an amateur?
He was an amateur.
He was an amateur
at Arizona State, and he came down and won the tournament. So it's kind of gone full circle.
Yeah.
So
wow.
Yeah.
You kind of knew something special was coming from that guy when an amateur wins. I think Scott Verplank was probably the last guy before him to win a professional event as an amateur. I think he won the Western Open. I might be wrong, but I might be right.
We might have to double check that one, audience.
Just do a little fact check on that. That's for sure.
So that's kind of how I got in the industry, and again, I just it fit all my my desires for a profession, and it's got a lot of business aspects. You're really kind of running your own business as a golf course superintendent. You're kind of separated from the resort or the club, and you kind of have your own staff and your own budgets, and so from a you get I always think of it as like a third business, a third science, because there's a ton of science into what we do, and then a third art, because it really golf is an art, and what you can do out there, and
the art and science.
The art and science.
Yeah,
it's a nice mix.
It really is. I think most of the golfing public doesn't understand the amount of money that goes into managing a golf course. And so when they show up and they pay $175, $200 to play a round of golf, it seems obscene. But when you really start digging into what it costs to run a golf course, especially here in Southern California, I think my water bill at the club I left was $650,000 a year, and Kevin's is north of $700,000 a year.
Oh my gosh! Can you imagine what it was in Arizona? Like that during the summer, the brutality of the heat, like it would just. Yeah, I can't even fathom.
Yeah, I think that from a water cost standpoint, I think they have. They were drawing off of wells out there, so that's a little bit less expensive. But as far as water costs, but yeah, it's you put down a lot of water. Millions of gallons. Yeah, a week you're putting down.
Wow.
Course, so. And it gets expensive, and now California is heading into a drought, and that's going to be one of the topics we're going to be talking about in some episodes to come, is how does golf kind of adapt to what's going on with water, and so superintendents are probably the biggest environmentalists there are, because we're cooling the environment, we're creating a place for recreation, we're a carbon sink. We've got wildlife. A lot of the golf courses, probably 250 golf courses out there that are Audubon signature golf courses. And so managing the water is important to us, and we are probably the most efficient managers of water.
We don't waste a drop.
We really don't. Yeah. Individual head control, and we're doing everything that we can to make sure. But golf only uses 1% of all the water in the state of California. And so the optics are there that we waste water, but really the truth about it is that golf is very efficient when it comes to water. So, so Kev, you played college football at Western Washington University.
That's going way back.
Yeah, it's going way back. I know you look younger than you are, though.
Yeah.
And so making that transition from such a physical game to something that takes a different type of skill level. You don't see a lot of NFL players, taking up golf. Where you got baseball players, maybe some basketball players, and hockey players are big transitional sport athletes. But you picked it up late in life too? Right?
Yeah, I didn't really start playing golf until really when I was in college, and kind of just learned the game a little bit, and growing up in Seattle, the golf seasons are pretty short up there. So unless you like to play in the rain, but I did pick it up late, and it was just. I think most of it is just the competitiveness and just being out there and competing, and I think that's what draws a lot of athletes to golf. After they're done playing any other sport, really, it's just you can go out there and you can have that competitive.
Sure.
Yes.
Did you pick it up right away, or were you terrible for a year or two? I mean, did you almost quit? Because I know when you start playing golf that late in life, and you're 19, 20 years old, it's difficult to do. I know there's a story about Greg Norman. I don't know if you guys have heard this or not, but I think he played some other sports, including soccer and some other things, and his dad brought him to a golf course, and he was a scratch player inside of a year. Wow. He just adapted to it. It just shows you what a great athlete he was. I think it really does take a true athlete to adapt to the game late in life. So did you
I wasn't a scratch golfer after a year.
Well,
I'll tell you that.
I was for all purposes, I was a scratch golfer the first time I played.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I put down my score.
That's after just 5 holes.
Yeah, I put down my score and I scratched it off. I was like, no, that can't be right. No. So that's my dad joke.
That's a challenging game. I mean, we all know that to play the game and something you'll never master, but it's something you can spend a lot of time and work on and get better a little bit at a time, and
never beat it.
There's always that one shot. There's always that one shot in a round that you hit it and you get it close to the pin or whatever. It did exactly what you wanted it to do, right. And then you're like,
why can't I do it?
I'm back.
All I need is 88 more of those shots, right?
It sucks you back in.
Yeah, it sucks you back in. So
for sure,
we've all had that.
So you've hosted this Kia Classic, the LPGA event. Sure. Is this the 6th year or 5th year?
I believe this was the 8th year.
8th year.
8th year, yeah.
And that's been a challenge for you. I mean, I know that it comes up in March, which isn't a prime time for golf in Southern California, and you've managed to adapt, and the television has done wonders for the golf course. It looks just terrific on TV, and I know that there's a little bit of magic there. But tell us a little bit about the challenges you face, especially over the last few years. With the Kia.
Yeah, no, we certainly it's nice to have a big event at a club because it really focuses you on peaking and really getting the course to a level that you wouldn't get on a regular basis. But there's drawbacks to trying to peak at a certain time because you do things differently. I think in preparation. Again, you're on TV worldwide.
Yep.
You got to, you want to look just spectacular. Yeah. So you do whatever you can to look spectacular, and that sometimes comes at a cost with, maybe pushing a little too much fertility, putting too much ryegrass down on the golf course, when we're overseeding and you end up paying the price a little bit, in the summertime. So after you do that for successive years, it starts to build up a little bit. So there is some drawbacks to it, but it's been a great event for the resort and the exposure that's given to the club and to Southern California and North County. It's been great.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So the agronomics are impacted because you're introducing these cool season grasses into your warm season grasses, and over time, because he's so close to the coast, right. It makes it a difficult thing. But it becomes is the LPGA event, the Kia, does it become the club's identity to a certain extent, or do you feel like it's just a snapshot in time?
It's kind of a snapshot, I think. Like I said, the exposure's been great, and it's gotten the Aviara name out to the world, really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And there's only 20, 25 or so LPGA tournaments a year, and we're one of them throughout the world. So it's a great. It's a great event, and it's been a great partnership. I mean, they're the skill level on the LPGA is just it blows your mind when you're up that close to it and watching it. And
now I have a question. So I'm a hack, right? I'm kind of
that's what I heard.
Yeah, exactly. My wife calls me that, right? So if the event is in March for someone like myself that is just a fan of the game of golf, but doesn't know that side of the business. If the tournament is in March, when do preparations really start to, you come into work on a Monday and you're like, you tell your staff at the meeting, hey, we got to get going because we've got X amount of days until.
Yeah.
When does that meeting usually happen?
Those levels of details are really probably 4 to 6 weeks away from the event starting. Obviously, you're doing things in the fall, and
of course,
to get to a point where you can just worry about the details, and then the turf and the conditions are going to be there. But there certainly is a ramp up, and it usually starts about 6 weeks before the event. And again, March, end of March is usually a pretty good time of year for us to look good, and the weather's usually pretty cooperative. I mean, you'll see, I think, a good thing to watch is Torrey Pines at the U.S. Open that we'll be hosting in San Diego in a couple of weeks. They always host a tournament in February.
The Farmers.
Correct, yeah. And so you'll see conditions in February a lot different than what you'll see in June.
Okay.
It's going to be dry. It's going to be. It's not going to be green and lush like you see in February. It's going to be dry and it's going to so
firm and fast.
Yeah, and again, Pebble Beach is kind of the same way. When they host the U.S. Open, you see the golf course in a lot of different, almost completely different playing conditions.
It gives you a real appreciation for these players, because Kevin and I went to Pebble Beach when the Open was there a few years ago, and as a player, I'm used to hitting a driver 250 or whatever I can hit a driver. Well, now you're forced. You're in position where you've got to hit it more than 300 yards. You got to hit it every time. The fairways are narrow, and the length and the firmness of the golf course is it's so difficult visually to be able to tell yourself that you can do this. I don't know how those guys on tour do it. And I know they're professionals, but it is from a grass grower's perspective, being able to get that in position, being able to do a tour event. I've done 3 tour events myself. There is a go time, and that's 6 weeks out. And I think and I know you've said it to me, one of the most difficult things is the setup of all the venues and the bleachers. I mean, can you talk about that and the difficulties of getting that stuff done before?
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly some wear and tear on the golf course just from the setup and tear down of everything outside the ropes. With the bleachers, the skyboxes,
grandstands,
and again, the LPGA tournament isn't quite as extensive as a PGA tournament stop, but there's just there's the 6 weeks leading up, and then there's the 6 weeks after where they're breaking it down. And
it takes 6 weeks to break it down?
Yeah, probably about 4 weeks to get everything kind of out of there. But it's
and you got dead turf underneath that you got to get recovered, and there's a lot of visuals and optics that go along with that. So I want to kind of pivot a little bit and talk about this last year, and we kind of covered it in the 0 episode. But COVID has really done some very interesting good things for golf. There's some detrimental side effect that you face, I know, and it's as far as play and things like that is concerned. But tell me what it's done to the business of golf, not only for you, but what are you hearing out there in the industry?
Well, I think everywhere. I mean, golf is booming, and I think certainly COVID. Obviously more people at home, more free time, people working from home / golf course.
You're talking about playing a little bit hooky?
Well, maybe.
Yeah, a little bit of hooky. Yeah.
But are you talking about hook or slice?
Yeah.
Hook,
no, that's a dad joke.
Probably more slice for most folks, yeah.
So anyway, rounds are up pretty significantly, about 20-25% from the previous year. Obviously we had to shut down for a little bit, when the pandemic first hit in March and April and part of May we were shut down. Superintendent's dream.
Yes.
No golfers.
Just let it grow.
Look at it. Exactly.
Just let it grow.
No traffic but once we got opened up again, so it was one of the activities where people felt kind of safe being outside and being able to social distance and play, and so it's I think it's been great for the game, and hopefully it's brought some new players to the game, and we'll continue to see that.
His
trend continue.
Director of golf, his name is Rennie Brown. We call him Ren Dog because dog kind of stands for Director of Golf. he's been very excited because the revenue that's been coming in. The hotel has just been seriously affected by not having guests up there, and I know that's starting to build again. I think people are starting to travel, but the golf course has been such a successful thing for Aviara, and I know Rennie's been excited for that for sure.
And it's difficult too because the more players you have on the golf course, the productivity of what we do goes way down. You can't mow fairways when you have a group on the tee, a group in the fairway, and a group on the green.
Right. Yeah.
You got a lot of staff.
Efficiencies.
Yeah, the efficiencies really drop off. So, you got to be able to sell that to ownership and let them know that, hey, we need to ramp up our labor to keep up with the increased rounds.
Demand.
The increased rounds, and so that's one of the drawbacks to
in the impact
and the wear and obviously the
wear and tear. And I talk to golfers all the time. We're taking advantage of all the rounds, and I think golf course owners and management companies are loving that the cash register is open, and we've just got round after round after round. The drawback to that, or the other paradox part of that, is the wear and tear on the golf course, just the compaction to the soil, and eventually there's going to have to be some work done in order to alleviate some of that compaction and impact on the golf course itself, or the asset itself will go down in value. And so I know you're probably not looking forward to doing some of those things like aeration and sand top dressing and things like that, but it has to happen.
Well, the great thing about Aviara is that they can take a break and they can go to the clubhouse and do one of those top golf simulators, right? So you can just say, hey, don't play today. Just go up there, get in a simulator.
Right.
I've done that with my wife. It was amazing. So much fun.
One great thing about at Aviara through this pandemic is that we were able to complete over a $50 million renovation of the resort. Unfortunately, my golf course renovation, which was we were scheduled to be closed, shut down from April through September of last year.
So like 2 weeks before you're supposed to start.
Yeah, we were 2 weeks before getting a shovel in the ground. We had designs, we had contractors set up. We were going to close down, and that's when the pandemic hit. So that portion of the renovation project got put on hold. Aviara is going to be celebrating their 30th anniversary this July next month.
Yeah.
So it's been open. It opened in 1991, and so we were kind of at the end of the useful life for most of the features on the golf course, the irrigation and the bunkers and that stuff. So we were set for a major renovation, and that's been put on hold. But
well, I know Kevin was really excited for it. He's like, oh yeah, we're going to get into this thing finally, and I was heading into a renovation as well. At the club I was at, and so it's a tough time. You're working probably 14-hour days, 6 days a week. But once it's done, your life has just been made so much easier. And so, Kevin's in this situation now where he's got a lot more play, and what do they say? Morale will improve. The beatings will continue until morale improves. And so right now he's kind of taking a beating on the golf course. But there's some good things that have come out of it, especially as far as revenue and enjoyment of the game. And it's been nice to sit back and watch, for Kevin to develop, his career over the years. We've been friends for a long time, and it's been nice to see him just get to this level, which is, he's one of the top pros. And, he's a certified golf course superintendent. There's only about 2,500 of us in the entire world, and Kevin's one of those. It's a very rigorous examination that you have to take to become a certified golf course superintendent. So kudos to Kevin. And Franco, his assistant that's been there, he's been there at least 25 years, hasn't he?
30 years.
Has he been there 30 years?
He's been there from the start.
He's been there from the start, yeah.
Actually, Franco was at La Costa when I was at La Costa back in the day. And he worked in a different department.
Having somebody there with that knowledge and drive.
I can't wait to meet Franco. Sounds like an amazing guy.
Yeah. Well, so you're 6'10", Franco's about 5'2", so you guys.
Oh, that'd be a great picture. Franco, you're welcome on the podcast.
Yeah, Franco, we'll bring you in for sure.
Yeah, but he's great. Yeah,
he is great, and he's a good player. In fact, he got to play in the Pro-Am, didn't he? For the Kia.
He did play.
Or was it a practice round?
No, he played in the Pro-Am last year. Yeah, so it was a good experience for him.
Well, if you ever need a
really
local,
tall caddy,
really tall local has-been celebrity to play in that, I'd be more than happy to play.
Yeah, so he moves it down the fairway. He's amazingly long. and a very, very nice gentleman, and does an incredible job for Kevin over there. And that way Kevin can keep his education up and go to the rubber chicken seminars.
You know what a good assistant can do for
So
of course.
Well, my assistant for 27 years at the club I was at, his name's Kevin Carroll. I'll give him a shout out. He's still there. And
shout out to Kevin.
And just an amazing guy, and a real prince. Give you the shirt off his back. Hardest worker and loyal to a fault. And our assistants are those guys and gals. There's a few female superintendents and assistants out there, and they do a wonderful job. In fact, our Toro rep, Erin Novotny, she worked at Pebble Beach. In fact, she knows Bill Murray quite well. In fact, they're
we need
friends.
to get Bill Murray on the show.
We could probably get Bill on the show. We'll probably have to bring her in with Aaron, though.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Bill Murray, you have to call a number. He has no agent. He has no representation.
Really?
He has a 1-800 number, and you call, you leave a message.
And if he wants to talk to you.
And if he's interested, he'll call you back.
Interesting. Well, he doesn't want to talk to me. He may want to talk to Kevin. He surely doesn't want to talk to you. But he will talk to Aaron.
I'm going to call him. Bill, I'm calling. So, I mean, who are you going to call, right? The Ghostbusters, right?
Yeah, well, hey, that's right. Good call.
Yeah.
So one of the experiences that we've had, we did have a chance to go to the Masters in 2018, I think. Yeah. We had a chance on Wednesday, which is the par 3 day, to get out, and we walked every hole. And for us, that's really the holy grail of turf grass management. I mean, the superintendent and his staff, they've honestly got some resources there that can deliver almost just an unbelievable surface to play on. You almost don't even want to walk on it. It's so amazing. But one of the things I was struck by, Kevin probably too, is the steepness of the place and just the contours of everything. But what was your take home from the Masters experience? Even we were only there for one day.
It was a good
day.
It was a good day. It was a good day. It was a long day.
Were you in Amen Corner? It was a good day.
Well, so it was just a practice. It was the par 3 day, and so we watched them play and practice and hit shots, and it gave us a appreciation for sure.
Yeah, no, it's an amazing place, and it's amazing it took us so long to get there. But,
I know.
But I think any golf fan should probably make the trip one time in their life. And
that's on my
bucket
pilgrimage.
list.
Yeah, that's definitely on my bucket list.
Tim mentioned the Berkman's Place, which is a little bit more about the history.
Are we allowed to talk about Berkman's Place?
I don't know, maybe not.
Okay, well,
another episode.
Yeah.
So you can Google Berkman's Place. It's quite an amazing place, and we'll kind of keep it at that. I know I don't want to get banned in any way, shape, or form from being on that property again. So it was one of the most memorable things as a golf course superintendent at the time, to be able to go and see things like an overseed rate of maybe 1,000 pounds of grass seed.
Now, when
per
you say
acre.
overseed, like for the hacks like myself and the viewers, what exactly are you referring to when you say overseed rate?
Yeah, so that's in the southeast. It gets really hot, and they have a Bermuda grass base. They've got a hybrid Bermuda grass base. But when you see the tournament in April, it's as green as you can ever imagine, and that green does not come from Bermuda grass. It comes from perennial ryegrass, and so it's been overseeded in the fall and then cultured over time, so that by the time they get to April, and there's a reason that the Masters is held in April. It's because that is when they are at their absolute peak. And so, you'll hear members or golfers that frequent your place, Kevin, will tell you, why can't we be like that? Well, you want to throw those kinds of resources at it, and limit
maybe
your
close
play.
down for 6 months a year.
Close down for 6 months a year. I mean, there's a lot of things that go into that, but that overseed is really critical. But they're the best at what they do. That entire staff there, they're all Penn State graduates. They've got interns and volunteers, and it is an amazing event.
It's
and
an
amazing endeavor.
Yeah.
It really is. It really is.
It's a machine.
So I think that was probably for us kind of a Mecca experience. And the last thing I think that maybe we can chat about, and I did it on the Zero episode, which we kind of plugged Goat Hill Park, because that's where Kevin and I are playing most of our golf these days.
Yeah.
For me, it's kind of refreshed my my view of the game and bringing me back to the game a little bit, where, when you're around it all the time, when you're around golf for 10 hours a day and you're on the golf course for 10 hours a day, you want to get away from your own place.
Yeah,
and
of
so
course.
Tell us about what you think of the GOAT.
The Goat Hill Park up in Oceanside, again, is a fun, challenging executive course, 18-hole executive course, and again, been there since the early 50s.
Yep.
And it's got some great character, and not only in the golf course, but the people that are up there.
There are a lot of characters.
I'm going to go play there in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So, I'm going to take my son out there.
I think the last time we played, Dave Stockton and Dave Stockton Jr. Were playing golf with a couple other guys. You can go out there and find Bubba Watson, kind of hanging around, and John Ashworth, the guy who runs the place that manages it for the city. He's done an amazing.
Yeah, no, he's made some great improvements up there. So the quality and the conditions are much better than they were 10 years ago, and so it's a good test of golf, and it's a good test of golf. It's not easy.
You can't miss a shot like we talked about,
but always a good time up there.
Yeah,
it really is.
Well, speaking of always being a good time, thank you so much for coming in. Like,
you bet.
You are one of the best guests that we've had today.
Of all the guests we've had, you're one of them.
Of all the guests today that we've had, you're the best thus far. And so, thank you so much, Kevin,
It's
for
been a pleasure.
Kind of being a part of our show and helping us kind of carry on the name of Fresh Cut. So I know Tim is really excited to have you.
Well, he's such a great friend to me and been so supportive of me over the years, and hopefully vice versa.
Yeah.
But as I wouldn't have anybody else as our first guest, that's for sure.
Yes.
Kevin, thank you for all your years of
So if you want to see Kevin more, you can either find him at Goat Hill
or at Aviara,
or try to catch a glimpse of the Kia
Classic.
The Kia Classic, in March.
And have you guys re-upped for one more year?
Nothing, not a signed contract, but we're planning on hosting again next year.
Okay,
We'll have to bring Dennis in for an interview.
I'll leave you my contact information for the program. Yeah, so so. But thank you so much, Kevin. I appreciate you coming back.
Thanks, Kev.
All right,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tim.
Thanks for listening to Fresh Cut. Tune in next week for another amazing guest, and make sure you like, share, and subscribe. And if you're playing the great game of golf today, fill in those divots and stay on the cart paths.